When you hear the word daily driver, first thing that comes to mind is a Honda Civic, a Toyota Camry, or even a Subaru Outback, or let's even say a Mazda. But what if I told you that the Porsche 944 might actually just be the answer? So today I'm going to be testing out the 944 to see if it actually would make a good daily driver or if it should just stay in its place as a sports car. I'll be testing 7 different categories that I believe every good daily driver should have, and I'll be giving them a score from 1 to 10. Then we can truly see what the 944 does well and what it does bad as a daily driver. The 7 categories I'll be testing are comfort, fuel economy, reliability and maintenance, storage and practicality, technology and connectivity, ride and handling, passenger experience. To test each of these categories, I'll be going to different locations, doing different things so that way I can accurately test each category. So first things first, I just want to talk about comfort. Now for comfort, I couldn't think of anything to test other than to just talk about it and give my personal experience. Now there is plenty of leather and carpet throughout the car, so that can make it pretty comfortable. As for the seats, they are nice and plush and they sit pretty low to the floor, so the legroom is not an issue. Unless you're sitting in the back seats, there is really no back seat. It's just there for insurance purposes only, or as I like to use them, as my storage compartments. As for the AC, 944s typically don't have working AC or don't have AC at all. I'm very lucky in that mine does have working AC, but it doesn't work the greatest. And these cars from the factory did come with the old AC refrigerant, so it's very recommended to upgrade to the new modern stuff. And when driving down the street with the windows up, I do hear a lot of road noise in this car. There's not much sound dampening and the car is pretty thin. As for comfort long term, I have been on a couple road trips with this car that are 100 miles plus, and honestly it's been great. The only complaint that I have is that these seats can get hard after about an hour or 2. But truthfully, I think that's just my seats personally. They're hard, they're stiff.
That's what she said.
They're ripped. It's gonna happen. The last thing I would say too is these cars are very old. You know, 40 years old, things are gonna need replaced, things are gonna get stiff, leather's gonna crack. Overall for comfort, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. I think if the AC was working better and if the seats were just a little bit more comfortable, I'd give it a 10 out of 10. Now let's go ahead and head to the gas station so we can talk about fuel economy. Now the really nice thing about these cars is if you have a naturally aspirated version, they only need 87 octane. You don't need to put anything else in it, so every time you fill your tank up, you are saving a little bit of money. So I do have an issue with this where I can't fill it all the way full and I have to keep it on it because otherwise it will not shut off and it'll just overfill. So I'm only gonna put a couple gallons in. Oh, I think it just actually shut off. Okay. Couldn't tell if it was me or not, so we're gonna go with it. So since my gas tank has a lot of issues and can't be filled all the way, I can't really measure gas mileage exactly. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is just reset the trip meter and see how far we go throughout this entire video. To just briefly talk about gas mileage, because like I said, I've done quite a few long trips on highways in this car, and every single time I've averaged at least 25 miles a gallon. Now I know that today, like Camrys, Civics, all that, they average like close to 40 miles a gallon on the highway or even more. And there's the hybrid systems, all that, but for 25 miles a gallon on the highway for a car like this, I don't think it's that bad. Also, considering the car is over 40 years old, you don't have the same technology that they do today, so I think it's pretty good. I think that's attributed to like it's lightweight, it's aerodynamic, there's not much to the car, so there's really not much for it to lug around. As for the total amount of mileage I've done in this video, I'm just under 30 miles at about 28 miles almost. Obviously that's not the best test for gas mileage because I haven't even probably used a gallon of gas. I've maybe used 2 gallons, 3 gallons, who knows? I can't really tell. But all in all, for gas mileage, I'm gonna go ahead and give it like a 7 out of 10 because honestly, it's pretty good for what it is, but it's not gonna be perfect. Also, it depends on how hard you are on the car. I tend to drive mine under high RPMs, so throughout the city, I don't get a whole lot of good gas mileage. On the highway though, I just like to cruise, so I do get pretty good gas mileage on the highway. Now, reliability and maintenance can be a pretty subjective thing depending on who you talk to, so I'll just give my experience and the maintenance that you could expect to do on this car. As for reliability, I've had very few issues, but I've also replaced a lot on this car. When I first bought the car, there was a small oil leak and the head gasket had a small leak as well. So I fixed both leaks and I replaced just about every electronic under the hood. Also a few other things like the fuel lines, and I added this mod here. Since then, everything has been great and I've only had 2 other issues. The car died on me after a drive, but luckily I had just pulled in my driveway. The DME relay where the fuel pump relay had gone out. This was a very easy fix and it only took about $20. Then one time I was driving home from work on the highway in the pouring down rain and the windshield wipers stopped working. This was a much worse situation to be in and honestly was very nervous, but this ended up costing me about $100 to fix for a new wiper motor. Since then, everything's been great, but I do need to talk about what you should prepare for. Now, honestly, the only two maintenance items you really have to worry about getting replaced on this car is the timing belt and water pump, and those sit just under there. They recommend you replace these about every 30 to 40,000 miles or every 3 to 4 years, because otherwise catastrophic failure can occur due to the fact this is an interference engine. And the cost of that can be pretty expensive depending on if you take it to somebody or if you do it yourself. Parts alone run you just over $600 from my experience. And if you do it yourself, you're gonna need the proper tools to do it. But if you only have to do this every 3 to 4 years, it's not too bad. And honestly, if you learn to do it the first time and you hold on to the tools, you can just do it again the second time. So as for reliability, I'm gonna give it a solid 8 out of 10. This is just based on my experience. I would give it higher, but with it being an old car, things are just bound to break. And with me having done so much work to my car, I think I'm gonna have a much better experience than the average person. So in order to have the same experience, you're definitely gonna have to put some money into it. But overall, I'm happy. To test storage and practicality, I figured what better way than to go to a grocery store, get my full week's worth of groceries and see how it does. For it just being me, honestly, it's gonna be just fine, but if this is a family, this may or may not be the best option. So let's see. So we're at Aldi now, and I'm gonna go ahead and go inside, grab my full week's of groceries, which is gonna be about $70 worth of groceries. It is just for myself, so this is not gonna be the best test, but at least we can go ahead and say if you have like a family of 2, 3, 4, or even 5 or more, then we can go ahead and determine whether or not this would be good grocery getter. So I just left Aldi and I only got about $36 worth of groceries. Not a whole lot, but I didn't realize that I don't need a whole lot because I just went like 5 days ago. So I got all the groceries here. It literally only fits in one bag. So honestly, for one person, this is a grocery getter for 1 week, not a problem. If you were to multiply this by 5, still don't think it would be a problem. Also, while I was in there, there's like a Volkswagen Golf behind me. I don't know what kind, it's a GTI, it's yellow. The owner came out and was like, hey, can I get a picture of your car with mine? Because it's literally parked right behind me. I said, yeah, it's fine, but it was super nice, super cool interaction. So our next stop was the coffee shop because I wanted to see for practicality, how does it handle if you want to go get food, things like that. So we don't have cup holders in the car, so you have to use aftermarket cup holders. Side note, Redline does make the best cup holder for this car, so if you want to go get it, I'll link it down in the description below. But I'm going to be using our typical ones that go in the doors because Redline's is probably not what you have just yet, so if you have something like this, there's your answer. Honestly, these aren't too bad, but not having a cup holder in the car really dings the practicality of this car. And not too long ago, we went through a Starbucks drive-thru, and reaching up into the drive-thru window is not the best thing in the world because it's like, you have to reach really far up, the car sits low. One of the other issues with practicality is like if you have a food or a drink item or anything like that, most of these cars come in manual, so it's already hard to like try and multitask, switching gears, drinking your, coffee, whatever. Now as for the rest of the storage, I have a decent bit of room in here and you can lay the seats back. And like I said, when I've been on long road trips, I do have like a tent back here, a bunch of chairs, sleeping bags, all sorts of stuff. And with me and one other person, it fits perfectly fine. So honestly, when it comes to storage and practicality, I'm probably gonna have to give it a total of a 6 out of 10. There is plenty of storage, but practicality wise, this isn't the best car when it comes to doing your daily activities. The activity is like going through a drive-through, getting some food, some drink, maybe hanging out with your friends. It's not the best. The next category I'm gonna be testing is the technology and connectivity in the 944. And quite honestly, there is just absolutely none. There's almost no technology in this car. There is no Apple CarPlay, there's no aux, there's no Bluetooth, there's nothing. It is a 41-year-old car, so you gotta understand that there's no technology back in the day that would really suffice on today's technology. There is still a cassette player in this car. That's the way it comes factory. You obviously can get a Bluetooth unit or an aux unit, but you're gonna have to upgrade. My car does have a lot of electric options like an electric sunroof, electric mirrors, which honestly is probably the best technology this car has, but everything's analog. It is a driver's car. It is 41 years old. You're not going to be getting this car for the technology, for connectivity. It's just not existent. So if you're willing to live with those things, or if you're willing to upgrade some things that maybe can be upgraded like the radio, then I definitely think it's good. But overall, I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10 because it's just not on par with today's standards, but I can't really hold it to that because the car is old. But also for the time, the car does have a decent bit of technology. But again, like there's not even ABS or airbags in this car, so safety as far as technology goes, it doesn't exist. So really, this is one of those areas where you're gonna have to suffice or upgrade or kind of see what you wanna do. And now for the fun part, we're gonna go ahead and close the hood and test out the handling and the ride on some back roads. You see, it's times like these when you're sitting at a stoplight, it's 80 degrees outside, your AC doesn't work that well, and you're about to go, and then you're gonna stop again. That's when this car really sucks. So it's not just the potholes and the speed bump, it's also just the actual traffic you sit in. I wouldn't say it's that bad. It's kind of like, I'd rather not do it in this car, you know, if I had a choice. And here's all the potholes as well that I'm talking about. Gotta avoid them, but sometimes it's impossible. You just have to friggin', oh my God. So overall, for ride and handling, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I think on the back roads and on the track, this car handles like it's on rails. Of course, you can still get it loose and have some fun with it, but it loves to stay in the high RPMs while in the corners. I'm only deducting points because during city driving, this car does feel every little bump on the road, with it being a low car to the ground, having the old suspension setup, and having a stiffer suspension setup. It's not meant to handle potholes like a luxury car, but if you don't live in a city or don't care to put up with it, you're gonna love how this thing handles. So I would talk about passenger experience myself, but honestly I'm gonna be a little biased. So I thought, what better way than to bring my passenger who always sits in the car with me to talk about it. So I'm literally just gonna hand her the microphone and let her have at it. She can say whatever she wants, good and bad.
I'm pretty short, so I have no problem getting in the car, but I could understand as a passenger it would be kind of difficult if you are tall to get in the car, kind of have to duck or you're gonna hit your head. The seats are really comfortable. I haven't ridden in it when it's been driven for a long time, so I don't know how it is long term. For short rides and stuff, it's very comfortable. You know, it does kind of suck that like there's no like aux or anything, so you can't be like, I wanna play this new album, but you just have to find a good cassette that you're fine with listening to. The AC works most of the time. I tend to get car sick pretty easily, and you know, there's a big windshield and it's all windows around, so it's not too bad, but the shifting, like I guess just shifting it can be kind of rough sometimes. I do hear rattling. I hear the trunk rattling.
So we just got to our destination, but overall, 1 to 10, what would you rate passenger experience?
An 8, because it's comfortable, an easy ride, but do wish there was an aux, and I do wish there was less like back and forth with the shifting. But other than that, it's fine.
And that brings us right back to the question, can you daily drive a Porsche 944? After testing the Porsche 944 through all 7 categories, it has received a total of 49 out of 70 possible total points, or a 70%. So does that mean I would daily drive one? No. Although the 944 scored really well at 49 out of 70 total points, there are just a couple of things that really keep me from daily driving this. The first reason is that this is my show car. I drive this to all the car shows and events, and if you're daily driving your show car, it can be really hard to keep up with. Constantly cleaning, worrying about dents, scratches, things breaking, it would just be a pain. The second reason kind of follows the first reason, but I am always worried about this car. For example, when we went to the coffee shop earlier, I had parked the car right out front of the coffee shop and was still worried about it. Somebody hitting it, stealing it, scratching it, anything. The third reason is that this car is just old. Now I know I gave it pretty high score on the reliability, but the car is old and you just have to keep that in mind. Things are gonna break. Throughout this entire video, although the car was reliable, I've been dealing with a really rough idle issue lately, and it was happening this entire time. I was worried if the car would shut off, die, leave me stranded, just anything could have happened. Thankfully, it is still going, but I'm also not home yet, so we won't know for sure. And since things are gonna break from old age, it is best that you go ahead and replace a bunch of things when you first get it. And if you're planning on daily driving it, you definitely need to replace a lot of things. Now I will say I did daily drive this for one summer because my daily driver had actually blown up on me and the car did fantastic. But there's a couple things I have to keep in mind when I say that. The first being that I only daily drove this for about 3 to 4 months. And the second being that that was entirely through summer. I have no idea how this car handles in the winter months, other than when I try to start it throughout the winter, it does not like it. But to sum it up, this car does have some really good daily driver qualities and characteristics, and it's just something that if you're willing to do it, I think you should go ahead and do it. But for me, I just don't see myself driving it every single day. When you have a car that's trying to live 2 different lives, it can get really hard. So I hope that answers your question on whether or not you can daily drive a Porsche 944. If you made it to the end of the video, I really do hope you enjoyed, and if you did, go ahead and click like, also share it with your friends, and go ahead and click subscribe because there's gonna be plenty more videos where this came from. And I really do thank you guys for all your time, and please drive safe, and I love you guys.